wildlife Dharma. Wildlife Dharma, I mean with that is how we can see teachings of the Buddha or relevant teachings for our life when we watch wildlife. And in what follows, I want to tell a few stories. All of these stories actually happened. And before I start, I wanted to just clarify my intention. This video is specifically meant for children. I have written so many books for adults that it is kind of high time that I also do something for the younger ones. But the stories I have are not enough to make a whole book. And so the idea instead to do a video, I have a few pictures to show you, and I'll just be telling some stories that I experienced and what I think they mean. And just by way of introduction, the place where I'm sitting here is normally where I meditate. Just I sit the other way around, I face outside towards the forest, and so there's lots of animals coming by here. And over there is the path that I use to go to the main center to get my food, and also where I do my walking meditation. And by the side of that path there's like natural stones. They are kind of low, piled up to a sort of low kind of wall. And these stones are particularly favored with the chipmunks. They really like to go in one side, come out the other. And also there's a lot of squirrels around there. And when I moved in here, I thought look, I'm a newcomer. I need to be respectful to the senior inhabitants of the area. So I will always give the animals the right of way. Means I will always, when they're coming chasing here and they're coming by, or when they're turkeys, I will always stop and wait and let them go. And by now the animals know that I behave like that, and they kind of expect it. They know I have my rules there. And the first picture I wanted to show you is taken just very recently, just 3 days ago. I think you can see from the vegetation, and in the back the pond is still full of ice. We are at the end of winter. And just 3 days ago, it suddenly became very warm. It was the first really warm day since the beginning of the year. We had about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, or 16 degrees Celsius. And as I was doing walking meditation, there were lots of chipmunks, maybe 6 of them. And they were just chasing around these stone walls, in, out. And they usually also, they particularly like to use, on some of these stones I've made some little constructions. Like I will put 2 stones and then put a third one on top, kind of balance kind of thing. And the chipmunks really like that. I think they have a sense of balance, and so they like to go over it when it's a little bit wobbly. And so the first picture I want to show you is 2 chipmunks staying on one of these stones. And as far as I can tell, they are actually kissing each other. I mean, they are very clearly touching nose to nose. And they stay on the stone, which is quite... you have to be very careful that you don't overthrow the stone. And what you cannot see in the picture, but what I could see, the contrast between these 2 and the others. Because these 2 were just staying there, not moving at all. And the rest, they were shum, 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 just chasing around from here to there. And so I think these 2 were just lovers lost in time and space. But with the other chipmunks, there's usually also more interaction with me. And as I said, I tend to respect them. And when this happened the first few times, the chipmunks are very surprised. Like they're running, and then they see me stop and wait for them to run by, and you know, chipmunk faces, they look very like, they're totally like, what is this? Big fella afraid of me? Because everybody is chasing them, no? But after some time, they get used to that, and they even enjoy it. Then they will come and race by very close to me to see what I do. And of course I stop, take a few steps back even. And there was, last year there was one, he in particular liked to do that. He would then not just race by, or she, but stop right in front of my walking path, so that I had to turn back. And eventually, so much that this chipmunk would like hide behind a stone and then just kind of like jump to surprise me. And again, jump in such a way and then turn his back towards me. And be just very busy searching on the ground. There was something very important that had to be investigated right now. I can't look at that monk over there. And yeah, what can I do? You know, I have to stop and wait until I finish. And usually they forget over the winter or the games of our rule, and so in springtime it always takes a little while again for them to get used to the fact that I have my rules, I will always respect them, I will never walk into their way. But this time it seems that I might be the same one that did these things with me last year. They still remember it, because when I was walking back from the encounter with the two lovers, there was this chipmunk again racing really like this much in front, racing over the path. It didn't stop on the path, but it went on one of those stones that I had put up by the side, and then it showed me its butt. You can see the chipmunk sitting on that stone and then the tail hanging down, and to be very carefully watching out something in the other direction and just really no time to look at this monk who is walking by. And I have the same kind of interaction with squirrels also. They very quickly get used to the fact that I'm safe. You can dash in front of me and I won't do anything, I will always stop. And so one time there was this situation, I was again doing my walking meditation, and there were two squirrels chasing each other. They chase each other quite often actually, more often than the chipmunks chase each other. And they were coming from that side, and I could also already see that the one that was chasing, it had a more brownish color of the fur, a color that I'm not familiar with. So I knew this one, and we are meeting the first time, this squirrel doesn't know me. And the two of them facing right in my direction come chasing. I stop, of course. And then the brown squirrel, realizing, wow, there's a human being, we are running right towards that human being, and getting afraid, jumping back. Jumping on the tree by the side of the path and then going around the tree. You know how they go around the tree and then look from the other side to see what's happening? Somewhat similar to the picture I'm showing you now. Somewhat similar to the picture I'm showing you now. So the brown squirrel is on the other side of the tree watching, and the gray squirrel, the one that had been chased, as soon as it realized it's no longer being chased, it really slowed down. Just walking very slow and calm, but keep moving in the direction towards me. Then the brown one on the tree realized that it had been tricked, it had been cheated. It got really angry, whole body shaking, and shouted, And the grey one, when it heard the other shouting, walking even more slowly, taking all the time in the world, one step, second step, I'm not afraid of the monk, third step, walking right in front of me. If I would have moved my foot, I could have pushed him over. But he knew, of course, monk is keeping his rules, no? Taking all the time to walk, and the other one, but what could he do? The brown squirrel was still afraid of me, we hadn't met before, so all he could do is be on the tree and shout. And the grey one was having real fun. It was a little bit like, I don't know if you've ever seen sometimes meditators, they also walk very slow. It looks a little bit funny when they look at it. It was just that kind of slow walking, but much more really like enjoying it. Usually those meditators, they look a little bit as if they are sad, but the squirrel was really having a lot of fun. It's going chum, chum, chum. And the lesson I take from that is a little bit like, even you're being chased, you're being in trouble, you just have to know the right way. You can find a way to play out the other person, the one that's chasing you. And I relate that to a story that I experienced in Sri Lanka, where this ability to know the right way was even much more important. And I was living in Sri Lanka, and I was meditating outside. So I'm sitting there meditating, and suddenly I feel there's something by my right thigh. And as I look, I realize there's a lizard. And I know this lizard, it's living in the area. It looked a little bit like the picture I'm showing you now. But my lizard was more beautiful and had very thin legs. And I had seen this lizard for several times around, but I had never gotten a chance to look at it more closely because they're very shy. Like when they see you, first thing they look away as if they didn't see you, and if you come a little bit closer, vroom, they run off. So the little fellow was just behind my right thigh as I was meditating, and he was shaking, whole body shaking, and heavy breathing, and looking in front, obviously very afraid. So I followed, look in front, there's a big white snake. And you can see the body of the snake is in such a way that the snake was clearly heading towards me, but the head is already turning around. So very clearly the white snake had been chasing the lizard, and it was such a big snake, they're very fast, the lizard really didn't see any other chance. It took refuge with me, you may say. It went by my side, knowing that the snake would probably not follow all the way up to me. And yeah, it worked. The snake turned around and moved away. And the little fellow sitting by me goes, human being. Very close. Vroom, off it went. Yeah, but still, I always remember this little lizard sitting by my side, taking refuge with me. It brings up compassion for me very naturally. This wish for non-harm. And this kind of hunting situation with the snake and the lizard. Of course, we also have this kind of interaction here. And so what we have here, we don't have big snakes, but we have hawks. And what hawks do is, of course, they sit somewhere on a branch, look, and something they can pounce on. And one time I was meditating right here, and suddenly I heard a loud sound, like a thump. I opened my eyes and looked, and I saw that it was a hawk on the ground. And the way they do is they have a lot of speed and momentum, and then they really crash into what they want to get. But it looked a little bit disoriented. It had not gotten what it wanted to get. And then, kind of like, didn't work. It went to a tree, to a branch of the tree, in such a way that it could look all around. It was probably trying to find the animal it had tried to pounce on. And as I saw that hawk watching all over there, I see right behind him, on the other side of the tree, a squirrel is walking up. Right to the level of the hawk. So you have the tree, you have the hawk looking in all directions, and on this side you have that squirrel walking up exactly at the level of the hawk and just waiting. In this kind of position they have when they are very attentive. And the hawk keeps looking. Eventually it flies off. The moment it flies off, the squirrel comes around, sits right on that same branch, leans back so it gets really fluffy, and puts his tail all around his body, just looking at that hawk flying away like So clear, I'm pretty sure that the hawk was actually trying to hunt this squirrel. And it was looking all over, not realizing that the squirrel it was looking for was right behind it, and the squirrel knew exactly what was happening. And just then sits back on that, all pluffed up and with the tail in a circle around himself and watching that hawk fly away. And so the message I take from that is that if we are too intent looking for something, we might miss the real thing. The hawk was too keen on finding the squirrel and couldn't see that the squirrel was right behind. And I have another story a little bit related to that, an experience I had once in a tropical forest. I was with a friend who was a specialist on wildlife. And this particular forest was famous for very, very beautiful birds, very exotic birds. And so my friend said, come, let's have a look at those birds. And so we just walked in a little bit, and then he found some log. He wanted to sit down on that. And he had told me before that he will not talk. He will just silently tell me what to do, and I had to follow. And I was a little bit like, hey, I don't want to sit on that log, I want to see the birds. But what to do? I didn't have any chance to talk. And as soon as we sit, a little later, there was a big group of Japanese. They also had come to look at these birds. And they had all this very expensive camera equipment, and I was a big group, maybe 20, 30 of them. And they were like walking there and looking and searching. And after some time they went by, and we could hear the noise of their walking fading away. And I was just sitting there on the log and wondering what's going to happen, and then suddenly I found my friend just go nudge me and just point up. Oh God, wow. Another one, oh. All of the birds were coming because the Japanese had left. All we had to do was just sit there. We sat there for hours. And when we left, we met the Japanese. They were really tired. They had been walking for 2 hours, and I don't think they saw many birds. So it's the same thing. If you're too intent on wanting to get something, you will miss it, quite probably. But coming back to here and coming back to the hawk, I have another story with the hawk. And that is, again, I was doing a walking meditation, and I suddenly heard that the birds were sounding alarm. Maybe before I continue with that story, I explain a little bit what I mean about sounding alarm. You know, when you live close to the forest for some time, you get an inner feeling for what is going on. You will know, the forest has an alarm system to let you know when something is not right. I had that experience one time. I was living in Thailand in in the north of Thailand, in the jungle. I was alone and I was just living in the jungle and sleeping on the floor. Very beautiful. It's a time of the year when it doesn't rain, so you can see the stars before you sleep. And one night I was just sleeping and I suddenly woke up and I knew something was wrong. Something is not right. And after a minute or two I said, no sound. Normally there's always some sound in the night. And I suddenly realized the whole forest has gone still. And I was like, something is happening here. And a little later I heard, and there were people coming. I was a little bit up and there was like a rivulet down. And there was a group of people coming, they had lights. And as they came close I saw they were carrying something and some of them were also having guns. And so I think they were probably smugglers or something, because it was close to the border. And they were taking this night track to go over the border. And these were dangerous people, they had guns and it was good for me to know and to be aware. So I was like hiding behind the bush and watching them, seeing them go by, and they were so much into their walk that they didn't notice me, so nothing happened. But if I had not been aware of the forest alarm system, and I hadn't known it, but it just comes intuitively. I just wake up in the middle of the night and know something's wrong here. Because there was no sound, because the whole forest felt something is coming that doesn't belong here, everything went silent. And coming back to here, leading those smugglers to do whatever they wanted to do, I could immediately know from that sound of the birds that something dangerous. And soon enough I saw a hawk coming. It was like coming away from where the birds were sounding the alarm and then going to the other side across my path and sitting on a branch of a tree and doing its usual job, like looking around, something I can pounce on. Just shortly later there was another bird, tiny bird, the smallest birds we have here, those very small ones. It came flying, fly below the hawk, come up right in front of the hawk, sit on the branch in front of it and start scolding it. And I was like, careful, no? I mean, the distance between the hawk and the bird was certainly not more than the distance between my two hands now, perhaps even less. I just thought it was much too close. It's dangerous. But the little bird knew what it was doing. The hawk is very strong, but its strength relies on distance, and on not being seen. At that short distance, it can't really do so much. These little birds, precisely because they're so small, they can go any direction, anytime. They go choo 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 choo, and very fast. So between the two of them, it was a little bit like, you might say, an airplane and a helicopter. Helicopter can't go very far, but it can go up and down, left and right, all the directions. And so the little bird, it seems it knew exactly what its own strength is. And it was able to sit on that same branch, challenging the hawk, knowing the hawk, what can it do? It can't really attack, it cannot walk over there, the bird will there was enough distance for the bird to just fly away. And if the hawk starts to fly, it has no match to the little bird, because the little bird can so quickly change direction. And it can also not really continue its hunting business, because the little bird is loud enough that everybody hears there's some trouble. And for the hawk to do its hunting, it really needs to be able to come by surprise. So the hawk is like, you can see it really didn't like it, looking at it, and then turn around and pretend to do its hunting in a different direction. Just ignore that stupid bird. 3 more birds come. Same size, sit in all the other directions on other trees. Now the hawk is surrounded on all 4 sides by little birds, and all of them are going, scolding him, shouting him. It flies off. As it flies off, the leader of the group, if I may say so, the first one, follows it. Follows it until the next tree. There's one tree that is very high. The little bird goes right on top of the tree. You know where those small twigs are? Again, this is a place where no hawk can sit. It will do a collapse, only the little bird can sit. And gives him a last scolding. Sort of like, don't come back, eh? So the message I take from that is really that even we are very small and weak, if we know our strength, we can overcome those who are big and strong. And we can do that particularly if we more than one of us, like the one small bird was able to challenge the hawk. But in a group of 4, of course, then the chances are much better to chase him away. Of course, the hawk didn't listen to, if I understood the last part correctly, to the being told, don't come back anymore. It came back. And it came back just recently when the small birds were not around. It's sitting there on the picture on the same tree, but on a different branch. You see the branch? It's a broken off branch. The hawk has chosen a branch where nobody else can come in front of him and sit on the same branch. So it's not at least part of the lesson. Besides the hawk, of course, we also have coyote. And there's a story with turkeys I would like to tell, but I first have to introduce those turkeys because we have a lot of close friendship almost. There's a group of, there's sometimes a large group of turkeys, but there's a particular group of 4 male turkeys. They come by here very, very regularly. And they actually come to check if I'm meditating. In the early times, this happened very regularly, that they came to check and just, what is he doing there? By now they are used and they just have one look and then they move on. And it's actually not only the turkeys that check what I'm doing. That deer had been coming by in front to the side, and I'd already noticed it was kind of glancing over. It went around my hut and then came up right in front to see what I'm doing. So in a way, the scenery here is like almost like a zoological garden. The only difference is that in the zoological garden here, the human is the one who's being looked at, and the animals are the one who do the watching part. The turkeys sometimes also meditate with me. Usually in the procedure is that they come briefly to check if I'm meditating, Then they withdraw a little bit and sit somewhere over there on the lawn. And after some time they feel it's enough and then they move on. And another thing I wanted to tell about them before I come to the coyote story, they came to visit me in winter. I actually don't really have a problem with winter. I like winter. The snow, the silentness. But it was a particularly dark and cold day. And the turkeys came to display their beauty right in front of me. So you can see them walking up and down right in front here of the window and just showing off how beautiful they are. Look, here we are. And as if telling me that even on a dark and cold winter day, there's beauty. There's beauty anywhere, as long as you're willing to look at it. That is the message I take from that. But now the coyote story. So that was one day, they had just briefly come by here and they were walking over there. And suddenly I heard one of them shouting in fear. And the shout was going up in the air. So I knew that it must have been flying up. And turkeys don't like to fly. They like to walk, because they're very heavy. And really only like in the evening when they want to go to sleep, they'll fly up on a tree. Even like they pretend to be getting ready to fly to each other to give the message, I want to go to sleep here now. Like they do 2-3 steps as if they're running, and then another one does it, and another one does it, and then they all do it, and they fly up and go in a tree. But during the day, if they can avoid flying, they rather avoid, they like to walk. So that turkey was, I could hear it flying up. And then as I opened my eyes, I saw another turkey flying by in front of me. And then I looked in that direction and I saw another turkey being chased by a coyote. But there was enough distance. I knew that even though they were leaving my field of vision, I knew the turkey is going to be safe. It's going to have enough time to fly off and not be caught by the coyote. But the coyote was just right here besides my hut. Normally coyote doesn't come here. And after a little while, then the 4 turkeys assembled and they stayed right here, right in front by my kuti, the closest they could be to me, so that they could see me through the window just on the corner. And they were just standing there and letting their head hang and not doing anything. I've never seen them before like that. They always do something. Either they sit down and meditate, as I call it, or they do something, but just being there like this. And I think they were so shocked by the fact that coyote had come to almost caught them, and that happened so close to the place that they felt safe. And actually for them to be standing by the corner of my hut was not a good idea, because if the coyote had come back, it could have gotten them. Just coming around from the other side of the hut, it could have come very, very close. But I think they needed to just feel close to me and to almost like process what, like a trauma, almost like the shock of being almost caught by the coyote. And so the message I take from that is really that we should never take things for granted. You know, my 4 turkey friends, they were so used to coming by here and to enjoying the peaceful atmosphere created by the meditating monk that they were not really as cautious as they should normally be. You know, many of the smaller animals have to be just all the time watching out. Yeah, turkeys look, 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 look. And the same for squirrels and chipmunks, because you never know when a predator will come. And so just don't take things for granted. And of course there are big animals that don't need to be afraid. Like I've had a black bear walking by right in front here. In fact, it was so close to the window that I noticed it because the room became dark. It was just so big, it filled up half of the window. And when I saw it, I was like, my mind just didn't understand what that was. I don't know if you had that experience when you see something that you totally don't expect. The mind just, it just doesn't know what it is and doesn't know how to make sense of that. And the bear, of course, said, the black bear doesn't have to have any fear, he doesn't care, he just walks by. And another time I had a mountain lion actually. It's just sitting out there. It was in the morning, it was still dark, but I could see it. It was just sitting there, looking around, and then getting up and walking away. Beautiful, like very powerful walk, very self-confident. And officially in this area we are not supposed to have mountain lions, but I can show you the track in the snow that shows that it was a mountain lion. And also a moose. I have that pond there at the back, and for some time in the summer I was hearing the splashing at night. Two actually. One splash, another splash. And I've been wondering what that was until one day I saw it was a moose. Big antlers, and coming in, going into the water, and coming out of the water. That were the two splashes. And it was doing that to cool down. They have a very thick fur, and so in summer when it's hot they like to go into the water. The moose also, no fear, just. But all the other animals, deer, also they are very fearful. They always have to check, keep an eye out. And another animal that has no fear, but that's a small animal, is a porcupine. A porcupine, it just knows I have to put up my quills and nobody will come. And so it's really relaxed, just going toom, 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 just taking its time. And for some reason, it was a porcupine mother and child, and they seemed to separate during the day, I assume to sleep. And the little one was sleeping somewhere close by here. And the mother one was somewhere else, and so they were meeting in the evening. And when they were meeting in front of me, the first thing, of course, the mother would give it milk. Picture's not too good, but you can see them here again. This is after the giving of milk, according to the mother, was over, but the little one is complaining. It wants more. And here's the little one again, by himself, already grown up a bit. So the mother would give it milk, and then at a certain point she would decide that this is enough now, push him a little bit aside and walk, and the little one would follow, pull and complain, I want more milk, I want more milk. And the little one was usually always here earlier, waiting for the mother to come. And one time I accidentally startled it. I was meditating here and I suddenly had to sneeze. And the little one was just here at the corner. And so the loud noise startled it. And so it put up its quills, but it didn't turn around. I think the putting up of the quills or spikes, however you call them, was like an automatic reaction. But immediately it realized, oh, that's just that monk, no trouble. And one time I also ran into the mother, and this is not at all particularly dramatic, but it's just something that really stuck into my mind, because I was turning around the corner of the hut, and the mother porcupine was just coming walking, and she had just left up one leg. And the moment she saw me, she kept the leg up in the air and just turned her head a little bit, just looking. What are you going to do? And that is an image that I really treasure, because I am a person who usually reacts very quickly My mind just works very fast. And this kind of, just not even putting the leg down, just leaving the leg, you've just been walking and just, so what? What are you doing? What's next? That's just a very beautiful reminder for me of that power of simply being with things the way they are and just waiting to see what happens, instead of immediately wanting to do something, react. And of course, what I did is, the first thing when you meet with a wild animal and you want to give the message that I'm not going to fight or anything, the first thing is you look away. You look down to the side. You can still watch out of the corner of your eyes, but you don't look directly. Because looking directly with the animals, it means fight, aggression, potential threat. Even like we have a fox here, and not so long ago we suddenly met, and the fox was like, and I immediately looked away and it relaxed and kept doing its thing. I learned that a long time ago. I was living in Thailand. I was living in a cave. It's actually very beautiful. There was a mountain that was on 3 sides surrounded by the ocean, and on top of the mountain there was a cave. And so I would sleep and meditate in the cave, and then early morning climb down the mountain. There was another monk living at the bottom of the mountain. We would meet, and then we would go to the next village to receive our food, eat the food, and then I would go back up, just taking a plastic bottle of water with me, back up and have a little rest in the cave, because after eating and going up the mountain you're tired. And then meditate the afternoon and the evening. And towards sunset, an hour before sunset, I would go on top of the mountain, on the mountaintop. Because beautifully you could see the ocean all different directions. And by that time it's no longer so hot. And on top of the mountain there was also a lot of wind, so you didn't have a mosquito problem. And every once in a while, maybe every 4 or 5 days, I would get my special entertainment, the monkeys. Besides me and a few snakes, there were also a group of monkeys living on the mountain. And they would also come to the top of the mountain, and then they would start prancing around there. And they're just so hilarious, Just show you a picture of monkeys. So I'm just showing you a picture of monkeys here. My monkeys were a little bit more beautiful than these, but they have the same kind of funny face. And especially the small ones, they have so cute faces. And then when they tease each other and prance around, it's just so hilarious. I think even if you are really sad and depressed and feel like crying, you see these monkeys, you can't help but laugh. The problem is you're not allowed to laugh. You're not allowed to laugh because humans, when laughing, they show their teeth. Showing the teeth in monkey language means I'm angry, I want to bite you. So the first few times I laughed, and I saw they were immediately like getting into like a defense kind of reaction and ready to fight, and I realized I'm not allowed to laugh. So sometimes I would do like this, trying to catch myself, and then they just look like, what is he doing? But I learned that you should never openly show your teeth. And with monkeys also you want to move up and down your eyebrows, like this. This is a sign saying I'm not going to trouble you. And look away, don't look at them directly. You look a little bit away, mouth shut, closed, look a little away, and moving up and down the eyebrows, you're safe. Very clear, no problem. I can walk right through them, they keep doing their prancing and everything, they know I'm cool. So from that is already a long time ago, 30 years ago. I know that this looking away, this is very important with wild animals. You can still watch them out of the corner of your eyes, but don't look at them directly, because that's like a confrontation for them. And the last story that I have is about a raccoon. That happened in October last year, or early November. So I was meditating inside here, and I had just been meditating on compassion. And I heard this noise at the door, like scratching, as if somebody's scratching at the door. And I had already put out the snow shovel, even though it was not yet winter. And suddenly the snow shovel like falling over, and again scratching. So I thought I better get up and look. As I opened the door, raccoon tried to come inside. That was a little bit unexpected for me, so I put out my foot to stop it from coming inside. But I did that very softly and gently, just kind of like, don't come inside. In fact, I knew this raccoon. I mean, we have been, what do you call it, distant knowledge of each other. A little bit like you might know somebody living down the road of your home. You never talk to them, but you've seen them from the distance. It had come by a few times, but we had never had any interaction. So I put my foot in a kind of reaction to stop the raccoon, and the raccoon, in a similar reaction, really put its mouth on the foot, but it didn't bite. It just made me feel the teeth. Just, don't push me. Just enough for me to know I have teeth, I could bite, I'm not biting, but don't push me. And afterwards I realized it's actually not such a good idea to use I was not having shoes because I was meditating, to use the feet to try to stop a raccoon, but also you don't really expect a raccoon to come in when you open the door, so I was just reacting. But anyway, in this encounter we both had clarified very lovingly and clearly our borders, like I was saying, you can be here, you can do what you need to do, but don't come inside. And the raccoon saying, okay, but you don't push me around, eh? And as it then moved off, I suddenly saw it like, how do you say that, losing, not able to maintain its body, like the leg collapsing a little bit. And I said, oh, the raccoon is dying. Because that is what happened when death sets in. Slowly the bodily functions are no longer operating. In fact, we can know that this goes through like 4 distinct stages that matches to a teaching on what we are, the 4 elements: earth, water, fire and wind. So at the earth stage, and that was what I was seeing there, is that you suddenly it is as if the body becomes too heavy. You can't bear the body anymore. You can't stand up the way you earlier stood up. And then the water element, you lose urine, and also sometimes water comes out of the eyes. Fire element, you lose heat. The hand and feet become cold. And then the wind element, the breathing becomes very slow and eventually stops. So knowing these stages of death, I realized the raccoon is dying. And that is why it wants to come here. Because, these animals, they know that they are predators and that if they start to die, they will no longer be able to run away. So animals always like to go to some place that they feel is safe and peaceful. In fact, in Sri Lanka, we know even the elephants, they have like a cemetery, a special place where elephants go to die. And in the meditation center we had in Sri Lanka, we often have animals come there to die, particularly when there was like a wildfire. Then we get these half-burned animals, snakes, whatever, they come because they feel the peaceful energy. And so the raccoon had wanted to come inside actually to die. It had come to be in my presence to die. And here's a picture. You can see it's in front of the door of my room, and it has somehow overthrown the broom in such a way that this broom is like stuck in the air. I don't really know how it managed that. And it has fallen over itself, and it's kind of like struggling with the broom. And you can also see it has urinated, it has lost urine. So that's already the water stage setting in. But after some time, it no longer tried to come in. We had clarified that, and I was just giving it metta and saying, you can stay here, you're safe, but don't come inside. And then it went to the corner of my hut, outside, and lie down. And the next morning at about 10 o'clock or 10:30 or so it died. I had briefly before still checked in and I saw it was breathing very, very slowly, and at that time then it died. And I found that a very good reminder of my own mortality and of that importance of dying a peaceful death. And I realized actually that this is a rather important reason for me to meditate also. You know, I want to die in peace. I want to be able to face death, my own, the death of the raccoon, the death of my friends and families, with peace of mind. Thank you for your attention.